Welcome to the Energy Exchange. I am Alane Paulley, and joining me today is Dr. Allison Marshall of Full Circle Vet, and we have spoken before, and I am enthralled by your energy, so this is a good place for us to be, but B, your story, your origin story, how you went from traditional veterinarian to expanding outside of that, and all of your amazing knowledge has got me really excited to dig a little deeper. So that's what we're going to do today. Welcome, Dr. Marshall.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I so enjoyed interviewing you for my podcast. And so it's just really fun to talk more about the non-mainstream medicines with you. And I appreciate the opportunity to share what I know, what little that is.
No, you know a lot. I think that it's very important too, as women who run businesses and are in professional fields, to
Amen.
Speak to each other, talk to each other, promote and learn from one another. And it's something that I feel like comes very naturally in a lot of male relationships and business. And I feel like working and learning from other women has been so paramount in my life. So I really want to know, my first thing is, what inspired you to become a veterinarian in the first place?
Oh, you're sweet. I think a lot of life is God's big joke, right? So I was born into suburbia America, family, and I just loved animals, and I especially loved horses. So in my family, I grew up in Southwest Michigan, which is in the 70s and 80s was not exactly the horse mecca of the world. So I, worked in exchange for riding lessons over the summer and just tried to be around horses as much as I could, and felt, I would say, misunderstood by everybody else around me. I just had such a draw to that. And in high school, I allowed myself to sort of succumb and assimilate to those around me. And I thought about medical school, and then I got to college, and instead, I declared a philosophy and psychology double major because I didn't know what to do with myself. And I thought psychology will help me deal with people, and philosophy is no more than a matter of questioning, right? And looking at the options in whatever situation you're analyzing. So I thought it's actually a great background for being a medical professional, because every animal comes with a human. And so the psychology helps me understand how people might be ticking in looking at their behavior. And then, philosophy is just amazing for differential diagnoses, and to think in a linear way, to think about what are my 6 options here that this clinical sign might lead to, systematically rule that out. So I just decided I was going to be a vet 6 months after my bachelor's, and I took my prerequisites and waited tables at Red Lobster and got it done. So.
I love that. So now tell me, when was the moment that you realized conventional veterinary medicine wasn't enough? What was that moment when you really dove in and changed, I guess, the way that you look at being a veterinarian?
Right. It's funny that you mention that, because it has to do with my mothering. Because of my philosophy major, I always thought acupuncture was interesting. I loved Eastern philosophy, and my early on boss did some chiropractic and acupuncture, and he said, let's just get your Western lame. I loved lameness. I love watching horses move. Is it pain? Is it mechanical? Is it neurological? I loved using my eyes and my intuition to differentiate that. And he just said, let's wait and get your Western lameness skills down before we send you to this because it's very expensive training for a veterinarian. It's not exactly continuing education mainstream. And then I started having kids, and I wanted to be a mom to my kids. And as we all know, part of the crisis of equine vets is that the culture has been that it's very difficult to have a family and be on call and all the things. So I left my regular veterinary practice, like my equine practice here in Richmond, Virginia area. And I did dogs and cats for a couple of years because I just wanted to be a mom to my kids, and I just wanted to work part-time. And I didn't want my I wanted to have a balance. And while that was going on, someone said to me, you know what, if you do chiropractic and acupuncture, you could not have emergencies and you could work part-time and you could work your schedule around your kids. And it was like this wow moment of, I've always kind of had an interest in that. Let me go do that. So it's also fun, the universe is funny. So 2004, I made that decision 9 years after I graduated from Florida vet school. And so I signed up for chiropractic the first 6 months of 2005 and acupuncture the second 6 months of 2005. And on January 11th that year, I found out I was pregnant with my third child. Wow. So it was a wild and crazy year. So 5 weekends for chiropractic, 4 weekends for acupuncture. I was away Wednesday through Sunday night, 9 times in 2005, had a baby in September, like it was blah, blah, blah. I got it going. Sometimes stress is the best way of getting through stuff like that.
Well, so you sacrificed that time then so that you could have more time on the other side. And we're always like negotiating with our comfort level of like, I can do this now in order, like, what's the trade-off, right? And I think that that's so amazing. It's interesting for you to speak on being a mother and running a business, because I think, and doing your career, right? Like when you say that you have it all, I don't know if that's possible. I think you can have a great career and you can raise your children, right? But I feel like Absolutely. I'm always negotiating between like, okay, how much time am I going to spend over here? And sometimes I feel like, I have a great, I'm either doing really great at work and like kind of falling behind over with my children or feeling really great at home and feeling like, I need to get all these things done, especially when you are in charge of your time and in charge of how much you can get done, Absolutely. And what you can do. And so did you ever deal with that? Like negotiating, like, how can I do this and this at the same time? And I don't think it's something men really feel guilty about or feel
I
as
hate
much
to
as
say
women.
that you're right, but you're exactly right. I think that that's both the beauty of our cultural definition of female roles, right? That we are actually allowed not to define ourselves by one thing, like being a parent or going to work or whatever. It's my experience that a lot more men identify themselves by their career than we do. And I think the motherhood and sort of the biochemical response of protecting our kids and doing the best we can by them, almost requires that we devote 3/4 of our time to about 3 different things, and so I absolutely had that issue. And so I arranged my time so that when I went to my calls, I would type all my records in and give people the bill before I left, like I had a printer, so that when I picked up my kids after school and hit the ground running, then I wouldn't have to worry about work so much. So It's absolutely a balance. And I think that our culture is the one that sort of our culture, our American culture, sort of defines how much is enough to be good at something. Like what is actually enough to do well at work, or what is enough to be a good parent and be there for our kids. And I would have to say that in retrospect, that I spent a lot of time giving myself away to everyone else in my world, especially my children, but other members of the family. And, in that stage of my life, it was hard if you asked me what I wanted for dinner, I'd be like, I don't care. Like it was a decision that just wasn't on my radar.
I'm on that stage. I'm in that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think that, I think in retrospect, like, I think I was pretty self-critical when I was in that stage of, I wish I had more time for my kids. I wish I, had more time for my job, or I did. And in retrospect, everything was balanced. Like, I think I probably would have, because of a lot of circumstances in my life, I would have been a helicopter parent if I hadn't had a very fulfilling career. And what a beautiful thing to show my children. We raise them, and then at some point, their choices are their own. And whether they make good ones or bad ones, our work is done. And we have to step back and get out of the way and let them fail and let them make bad decisions and all that sort of thing. So I'm kind of at that stage of the career right now where the mothering that I am, the universe is forcing me out of my children's lives, and it's beautiful and it's eloquent. And my oldest went to St. Louis for professional school in 2023 in September, and my youngest went to college. So I was like empty nesting, and I think I cried all the way through 2023 because it was like, wait a minute, who was I before I gave myself away, when I was 25 years old, before I got married, before I had kids. And so it's been a journey for the last 3 years to kind of reorient. And my work has been a bit of my stability, I've done just chiropractic and Chinese medicine, which involves acupuncture and herbals and some fun body work called Tuina. And I've been teaching at Chi since 2010, to do energy medicine well in your body, you got to keep your body good. So that's been sort of my anchor through a lot of trials and tribulations through my personal life, since I started it. Like in 2005, my first marriage was falling apart, and it was just a beautiful anchor to get my energy good. And I know that if my energy is not good, I can't give good energy. I can't help horses, or help their humans understand what's going on with their bodies as well if I'm not pretty grounded. And and I'm not saying I do that perfectly, but that's something that I have strived for. And it's definitely carried me through some tumultuous times. And mothering is just a tumultuous time. That's all there is to it.
Mothering is a tumultuous time. I mean, it really is. And I think as a society, and maybe just as a people all around the world, I find what I find so interesting, exactly how we define ourselves. Like, your perception of self is so important in how you show up and who you are.
Absolutely.
And I think it's so interesting that recently I've been contemplating in my head a little bit about how as you age and you get older, like if you're with men, it's like their career is everything. And then they have this identity, like, how do I retire? What do I do?
Absolutely.
What do I do with my time, and who am I? And then moms, I think that happens when kids go to college, like you said, right? And they're leaving the nest. I have one in college, one in high school, and one in second grade right now. So I have a long journey still.
Yep.
But I think that college experience, or watching them leave, I think what's beautiful about the working mom is that you have a little bit of both. And that's nice. But I have some friends, and I've been talking to people, and they have given themselves so wholeheartedly. Like you said, when you were at home, if you were at home, you would have been a helicopter parent, where they have given the way they look, the way they feel, the way they function to their children. Like, they are clearly not healthy. They clearly are. It's sad to see, but they want that child to be, if you can't put that much energy and that much expectation into a child, I don't think it's healthy for them to be the end all be all of any parent's lives.
Absolutely. And what I'm learning currently is that the more I give to my kids, number one, the more I give them the perspective that they can't do it themselves. They're not able yet, right? I don't trust them to take care of themselves. And number two, I don't allow them to feel what it feels like to take care of themselves. So, they've had some trauma in their young life. I'm sure all kids do, but my protectiveness when they were teenagers and trying to be stable for them and all that kind of thing, I think that we all look back at parenting and go, I wish I had done this better. I wish I'd kind of stepped back a little bit more and maybe required more of them so that they could feel empowered. And I think that's a lot of their friends and their generation, is a lot of parents that have given up their lives for the success of their children. And I'm not sure that's really healthy for anybody, right? It's not healthy for the kids. It's not healthy for the parents. It's like whatever those animals are where the child eats the mother and you sacrifice your life, that's not really what we're here to do.
And they're going to let you down then. Like, you're going to get to a certain point where you can't control them. You can't do it. They're going to make decisions, and you're going to be disappointed. And I'm
terrible. There. I'm at that point in my life.
And that's such a crazy journey. And so my husband and I agreed when our children were young that when they got to sixth grade, we didn't control homework at all. Okay. So we helped them with their after school stuff. But when they did their homework, how they did their homework had nothing to do with us at that point. So that
Good.
sixth, seventh,
Good
eighth
job.
grade years are all three of my children. It was very difficult for all three. Well, I have one more to go, so we'll see how that one turns out. But because all of a sudden the routine is gone, I'm not making you sit down. And I have the conversation with the teacher every year, like, they're going to fail. Like, this is going to be very difficult. Stuff is not going to turn in. They're going to think they're living their best life the first quarter because they're not going to be forced to do anything. They're going to have a really hard reality when those grades come in the middle of the year. And then it's going to be about them learning to build structure into their own life without me being involved at all. And that has been one of the best and hardest things I've ever done. Because I'm like, don't you have that science project? Don't you, you know, and do you need me to get you anything? Or you want to go to the store? You can buy that, you know, and no, okay. Well, we'll see if your science fair project gets turned in. And it's a very hard lesson to watch your child go through. But I also have friends that do it the complete opposite. Ththey get to college and they don't have a routine. Like, mom is still calling them to get up to go to class.
Yes. Can you imagine?
No. And it's happening a lot.
Right. Yep.
It's crazy. Okay. So let's shift back to your business. Now, I really am interested. You work primarily with large animals now, and you did the small animal thing, and now you're with horses.
Just horses. Yep.
Okay. So how do you feel about, and this is, I deal with this a lot in my career with MagnaWave and the regulatory side of veterinary medicine, or just like FEI and all these large groups that are calling. It doesn't affect you as much because you have that standard veterinary, but there's a lot of practitioners in doing what you're doing that maybe didn't get a veterinary degree, and maybe they're doing some sort of chiropractic or some sort of acupuncture or massage. And a lot of those things are being regulated very harshly right now. And how do you feel about that? Like, what is your view as somebody that's been on both sides?
The two regulatory bodies, let's start here. So the two bodies that I'm thinking of is FEI and racing. Are you thinking of any other thing that I should be incorporating?
No.
So I think that human nature, when we try to do anything, is to go to the extreme, and then the pendulum has to settle. So my very humble, uninvolved view, like, this is 100% just, I'm not involved in either one of those regulatory agencies because of what I don't do. But I know that lavender is a testable substance in FEI. And if they're giving lavender the power of being a competitive advantage, I'm kind of wondering where the pendulum's going to fall. Does that make sense? And I really understand that the HISA organization with racing, which has been around for 4 years, I think now. I understand that they're making some great strides in the horse's protection, but I think there's also some situations where the baby's being thrown out with the bathwater there as well, and some of that's just growing pains, and some of that's learning to adapt, right? So having a federal government agency that has a lot of FBI agents involved in that. There is a little bit in the FBI agent, but this is what I'm hearing from other veterinarians that are involved in this. Some of the FBI agents are almost trying to set vets up who've been practicing well for failure, or like, you're guilty until proven innocent. And that's all good and well. I think that racing has been a little shady, or there have been parts of it that have been a little shady for a long time. And my impression is that HISA in general is going to make it so that the bottom feeders can't function anymore. And that would be appropriate, in my humble opinion, but that's only my understanding of it. So, I love that what I do is not necessarily regulated. I do work on racehorses for one fabulous trainer only. And, I don't want to work on them 48 hours before a race, because what I do requires the body to heal. So when you do an adjustment, you're waking up nerves that haven't been heard from before, or for a very long time. Like, if they're getting compressed, their electronic flow is decreased. So if I'm waking up nerves, they will have they need a walk day after me. They need a healing day after me, because they're not going to be on their game. So what I do naturally falls within don't do this before racing kind of thing, and I don't use anything for FEI horses that, would be testable or anything like that. So, and I do acupuncture. So I do inject vitamin B12 into acupuncture points, but it's vitamin B12. So, I don't think that's testable anyway. And I see my patients long enough out because we want to prompt the body to heal itself and then give it time to do that. So,
yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Yes. And I do want to talk about one more agency that I forgot. And
Sure.
So right now, a lot of states, what they're dealing with is the AVMA has put a lot of these holistic or, any type of application into veterinary medicine state by state. They're deciding these things, which is different with humans because the FDA decides, right? So there's one regulatory body. The AVMA can make recommendations to the vet boards in each state. They decide whether to adopt and follow those. And what I'm dealing with, I guess, with ours is there's a lot of people who work on, and HISA says 48 hours before a race, and so does FEI. They don't let you do it 48 hours. And so I don't really have a lot of problem with that either because I'm on the same camp you are. Like, yeah, let them have the time to recover after, get better and feel better. Fine. Where I struggle is like where somebody gets a MagnaWave, they go through all this training, they maybe do some sort of massage school, they go through that, and then they're considered veterinary medicine. And I think veterinary medicine falls under, are they diagnosing? What are they saying? What are they doing? A lot of veterinarians are referring to these people because they don't have the time to do equine massage. They don't have time to do MagnaWave on an animal. They just can't. It's not worth it. So a lot of these animals now are going without because people are afraid. They immediately, just like you said, they swing that pendulum. They immediately go to, well, if it's veterinary medicine, I'm going to get in trouble, blah, 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 blah. I'm done. I quit. And
so your practitioners are backing off. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and they're afraid of getting in trouble. And the only time in the last 15 years, we've had two people, both of them were using and diagnosing animals, they had lasers, shockwave. They were doing a bunch of stuff and they were walking into barns on recordings and saying, no, don't believe your vet. This horse doesn't have EPM. This horse has that. It had nothing to do with the MagnaWave itself. It was the way they were speaking and they were carrying themselves and their business. And now out of that fear of people doing that, I feel like there's a lot of vet boards that are saying all of these modalities are not allowed to be done unless a veterinarian is present. And that means veterinarians don't have time, especially with how how the career has changed and how, depression is huge, especially in small animal vets. So I'm wondering, you made a switch from traditional medicine to this, to a way of working that is very similar. You believe in the energy in a very similar way that I do, and they're very complementary to what we do. So I wonder, are the horses actually paying the price for a lot of over-regulatory where we're not allowing them to have access to a lot of really good stuff?
Gosh. So my answer to that is that I don't know that I could tell you. I think I'm going to answer this with even a bigger perspective in that in my small 30 years of being a veterinarian, I have seen horsemanship go by the wayside. And I had a trainer say to me one time, Allison, why do you think warm bloods have gotten so popular? I can train this horse to take the whole course by itself, and my client can fly down from New York and perch on the horse and get blue ribbons. So, how much are we treating these animals as a motorcycle? How much are we... I've been in some situations where I've been asked to come to a big barn, like a big show barn, and the holder, who's like an owner, says, so you're a vet and a chiropractor? And it gave me the impression like they just wanted to check the box. Yep, the horse got chiropractic. Yep, the horse got MagnaWave, not really looking at the animal, if that makes any sense. That's kind of where I'm going with that. So, yes, are small amounts of veterinarians and farriers and dentists and, those practitioners that are out for the dime and are out for the glory or the ego or whatever, and they're not being ethical. Are they kind of wrecking it for the rest of us? We are kind of in a rule-making society now, right? So that we are trying, I think all governing bodies are trying to make some standard rules to eliminate the possibility of those people hurting a horse. I think really that's probably where that all comes from. So are we all in that boat? Yeah, probably. And I remember when equine dentistry became veterinary medicine. That was 25 or 30 years ago, that was kind of the push. And there are vets who love dentistry. I was not one of them, but it's tough because there are some equine dentists that do beautiful work. And they're, obviously what you do, you are training your people to not use it as diagnosis, but to really look at the animal. When you train your MagnaWave people, what I understand is that you teach them how to evaluate the animal's response and use that as helping the horse out and explaining where pain might be. When does that lay on diagnosis? I think that the more we have modalities in veterinary medicine, and on the one hand, they're allowed to, as of right now, I'm actually on the AAEP ethics committee. And one of the big topics is the sales of shockwave machines to lay people that are not veterinarians. And you can hurt a horse with a shockwave machine, or at least the medical grade shockwave machines. So
you can with every grade of shockwave that I've ever seen. I mean, they are strong. And if you are having to drug the horse in any way,
that's right.
To me, that to me is the red flag. But keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, you interjected perfectly. I think with all of the modalities out there as a whole, veterinary medicine is kind of struggling with where do we need to be, and darn it, we need to oversee even more things, for the good of the horse. So I'm not sure I have an answer to your question, but I think that the root being horsemanship and good riders that are tuned into their animals, and they're not just out for ribbons. They're out for the sport. They're out for the competition, with the teamwork with their mount to get better and better. I'm being a little altruistic, but I feel like that's probably the people who are not tuned into their animals are going to be like, yep, check the box. Let's get this dude out here because he thinks he's great at this, and he thinks my veterinarian's wrong. If you're not tuned into your horse, you might be more inclined to succumb to the wheeler dealers like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. And I think where I've kind of walked this road of creating the certification and expanding on what it started as. And one of the things that we really, I say is we don't talk about inflammation, or we talk about areas of sensitivity. The machine shows us those. I look at it as like a vet tech, not x-ray tech. You are going to look, and the machine's going to give you some areas of sensitivity. We have a mobile app, and you can mark those areas and then send that, text it or email it directly to the trainer and the veterinarian. I said, that's how you give them the tools that then they can make a better diagnosis. And we train around that. It's not about one veterinarian cannot do it all for these animals. And I find that the people who tend to use MagnaWave are more open to a lot of people, especially in thoroughbred horse racing, you can inject joints. You could do things to make the pain go away, like shockwave or increase pain. And you can do these things, but then there's the people who are more worried about the recovery after the race than the actual performance, but what happens before the race. And if you are doing a whole bunch of things to just get that animal to perform and not thinking about what can I do afterwards so that they can be healthy and recover and do better, that's where I think we need to shift our mentality. This shouldn't be recovery is where I feel like we fit. That to me, I feel like MagnaWave, a lot of these modalities, you could go in and do these things to help recover, but you need to do them with a veterinarian, and you need to have a veterinarian that's open to both. And it doesn't have to be one or the other, which is why I so much am inspired by you, because it takes when you're taught in school, you're really told this is it. This is Bible. Yes. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And what really for you, what made you think chiropractic and everything that you're doing actually was legitimate? Was there a time that you saw something happen that you were like, wow, this animal has seen such a change?
Oh, what's really funny is that that happens every week. I will still, after 20 years, I'll go, holy cow, that's so cool. He's so much better. Like, I am amazed by my own medicine. I do remember I was halfway through chiropractic school, and a guy in my area was riding steeplechase horses and had a horse that like had dog sat in front of a mulch pit or something like that. Just like did a crouch. And he said the hunter bumps were uneven. Would I adjust it? I didn't even know what I was doing. So they said in chiropractic school, just wait till you see, you know, how good they are when you're done. So I jogged the horse, responsible veterinarian, jogged the horse before every horse that I see. I do a little jog in hand, and I can tell so much now just by how they're moving, where they're using themselves. And so jog the horse, and I'm like, average moving thoroughbred, adjust it, jogged it again. I was like, oh no, that's not good. That's not better. Come back in a week. Holy cow, I didn't know that thoroughbred could move like that, you know? So that was probably my first, holy cow, this stuff works really well. But, you know, when my clients greet me at the truck and say, well, did you bring me a new horse? And I'll say, what are you talking about? Well, you left me with one last time. He's doing amazing. Like, it's thrilling. And it is both. I do a lot of chiropractic kind of as a baseline, but you know, what acupuncture can do is amazing to me. Like the electro acupuncture version of acupuncture, like when I did do that little 20% of dogs for the first 9 years of my practice, it made paralyzed dachshunds walk again. Like after a couple of months and a couple of treatments, and the horses with neck issues, which I find a preponderance of, and I'm a little biased, but I believe the studies that show that these horses are struggling, thoroughbreds and warmbloods in particular, electroacupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine it's amazing how much horses respond to those things. So what I have kind of come to in my later years is you don't know till you try. So that's how I present things to people. You know, it's never my money to spend, and nothing is cheap in horses. But when we're talking about holistic medicine, we're really talking about asking the body to regenerate. And when I first started my holistic practice, the Chi University, which was Chi Institute back then, had a Yahoo chat room so all of us vets could get on and share stories. And there was a woman on there who had a draft horse herself, veterinarian, and she took radiographs before and after 4 months apart. Ring bone had disappeared in her draft horse, like had gotten 50% better in 4 months. So there's a lot of those sort of anecdotal situations where we can make them a lot better. And then it's like, if they get a lot better, did we fix the problem, or is there something underlying that really still needs to be addressed because we took care of the clinical signs? And that's, again, where I would say good horsemanship is a great partnership for me, because my clients know their horses well. They know riding them, you know, is it 50% better? Is it 75% better? He was good for 2 months and now he's backslid a little bit. And, you know, what's left? You know, what's left after we make them better? Are there things that we can address? And then it might be Western medicine. It might be that we do have to inject a neck, or we do have some stomach ulcer treatment to take care of some underlying pain for them. And so I joked with, one of my colleagues one time. I was meeting a client at our state fair, which is not far from my house. And I was standing there talking to one of the vets in the area. The client walks up and we started talking. And I said to the client, I said, well, I think Western medicine has a corner on about 10% of the answers, and the holistic has another 10%. And it just shows me that there's 80% we don't know. And the client, we all laughed, and the client walks away. And my buddy Dave looks at me and he goes, 10%? That's all I got is 10%. It's just a perspective, right? Like I think that with any kind of medicine, we don't know till we try. And I just, I'm amazed by the options of Chinese medicine every day. I'm amazed. It's a lot of fun. And I'm amazed also in this age of technology where we want the ultrasound, we want the CT, we want to do all of our diagnostics. I find that especially the younger vets who are more exposed to that kind of forget about looking at the animal. And so I haven't had any of that for 20 years. This is my diagnostics right here. So what I feel in that horse's body, how many bones they have to adjust, how stuck all those places are or not stuck, what's stuck, what isn't, it helps me understand biomechanically how they're using themselves, how they respond to acupuncture, how easy is it to clear these issues or how not easy is it? That's all really great information. And, very well, because you do this with MagnaWave. I watch the horse's face the whole time. I might be yakking the body language, the tail swish, the relaxing, you know what I mean? Like, horses tell us so much. And sometimes one of the things that I love to do with acupuncture is I do all of the acupuncture points in their feet. And all of our acupuncture channels begin in our fingernails and our toenails. And people and dogs don't love acupuncture needles around our fingernails. Horses love them most often. And so I might put 8 needles in the hind feet and the back feet, and their head just goes clunk. And I think, oh, cool, this is great. We're going to be able to do some good here. So the response to these therapies gives us so much information about how much it's helping the horse, what we're missing, all the things. So I don't know if I answered your question there, but I'm just smitten by it every day.
And I was the same way. I mean, I remember when I was addicted to just getting those calls. I mean, I still am. I mean, it was it gave me so much life. Like the first time somebody was like, this changed everything for me. My life is better. My animals, I love those phone calls. I love those stories. And you can see how quickly, MagnaWave has not been around as long as acupuncture, right? But imagine between 2000 and 2006, my mom and dad were some of the only people in the United States doing this on horses, so cool. High power PMF. And everyone thought they were insane. But when you see the results, when you know your animal and you see the results from after a session, and they're so quickly, that animal doesn't have that placebo effect where it's like, oh, I want to feel better. It doesn't know, but it does feel better. It grew so quickly. MagnaWave took off because of the way that it's an easy application that makes the animal feel better. And you love your animal, and you can see that. And I think that more people need to have those tools. We need a toolbox, of things. And we aren't thinking about that. Like cross-train, learn.
And back to your question about sort of the regulation in equine medicine now, our veterinary oath is above all do no harm. And so I understand that shockwave can cause harm, but MagnaWave, I don't know your medicine like you do, but it sounds to me like it's pretty hard to cause harm with that. So if we're over-regulating it, to your point, what are we doing? Are we really restricting the service to these animals if they can't, if FEI can't have XYZ PDQ, but they can have MagnaWave? We need to open up. We need to be able to support animals getting the therapy they need so that they can heal their micro traumas, every time they work out, because we're asking a lot of them. Yep.
Well, and we're regulating out to stop performance enhancement. We're regulating out care. And I think that's where the problem is, because all the time, and this isn't just for me and my modality. I don't care what machines you're using, PMF machines, whatever. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, the goal of these regulatory boards is to protect the animal, right? We're going in, we're to protect the animal. But if we didn't, the due diligence is of those boards is to do research on what the product is that they're now regulating out. Because what I find is they don't understand it. They don't know what we do. And so their first blush is no, because we don't understand it, but they're not taking the time to say, hey, maybe we should call that woman over there that got it FDA cleared, that builds all those machines and actually understands the science and works with the FDA. Maybe we should ask her, what is this? How does it work? What's your clinical data? What do you have? And then make it a valid decision. Just making a decision on the welfare of the animal because you're not taking the time to educate yourself is what we're doing. We are just regulating everything out. It's unfortunate that MagnaWave and Shockwave came around at the same time and we both have wave in our name, because we get a lot of confusion there. And people think, a lot of veterinarians think we are Shockwave and we're not. And I think that there's a lot of people who think we're analgesic, and every study we've done has shown we're not. And so I think that a lot of this has to come to a better understanding, and it's impossible for somebody like me or even the Association of PMF Professionals, the AOPP, for them to get in front of these boards because they don't want to hear. They literally don't want to hear it. The FEI has written rules, and it says like anything that's 1,000 Gauss, high power, high frequency. Well, all PMF that exists that we are using on animals is high power, low frequency. Okay, so first of all, the rule doesn't even make sense. Like, it's not even written correctly to what anyone in the world is providing. So it's like, okay, so technically that's not us because we're not 1,000 Gauss high power, high frequency. We're 1,000 Gauss high power, low frequency. But I knew what they're trying to do and what they're saying. And I think that we should do some due diligence and before we make these changes on what's the best thing for the animal. What's the science? What are we doing? Because you're right. We're regulating out recovery. And that's what's scary. I don't mind not right before. That's fine. 24, 48, do whatever. But after, like, what is the difference if a horse walks off that racetrack or from an event and goes in the barn and gets a massage or gets recovery? We can't do that immediately. They're not performing anymore. They need to recover. We allow that in performance with people.
Right. Right.
And the math isn't mathing in my brain, but I think that there's so much research that needs to be done. And I'm trying to champion that and how they work together. How can we be better by incorporating what you do and what I do? And a powerful practitioner to me is somebody who does all the research and education they can. And when they look at an animal like you do, and then they say to themselves, let me get my toolbox and I'm going to work, because you shouldn't get paid by the minute for your time. You should get paid by the results that you bring. So if it takes you 15 minutes, but it takes an hour for somebody else, but you're able to see your talent, your education, what you're doing. That's the value. It's never the modality. It's not the type of needle. It's none of that. It's you. Right. And that's what's powerful. We need to focus on as people, in my mind.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I think I have been doing some really neat, I've been co-teaching with some really neat farriers in the last 2 years. And I've learned so much following this master farrier and watching him coach other farriers. And what it gives me perspective on is, as veterinarians, we get 4 short years to try and get under our belts knowledge of all this stuff, and we are looked to as the equine professional. And what I wasn't taught in veterinary school about the biomechanics of movement in the horse foot and how that reflects the conformation of the body and how the foot moves to the biomechanics. So if they have an offset knee or they have rotational deviations in their bodies, their hooves are going to reflect that. And how, I'm learning a ton. And as a vet, we are looked to, well, do you want a bar shoe on that horse? I'm not qualified to say that, quite frankly. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not as good as some of these farriers. I don't do that all day, every day. And, I've had, long time ago, I don't have this as much anymore. And maybe it's because I'm a bit more of a experienced person in my field alone. But when I was early in this, I would have vets look at me and go, well, chiropractic doesn't work. Well, acupuncture doesn't work. Well, you have no right to say that unless you've actually done it. Right. And proven that it doesn't work, Right. Like I think as vets, there's so much to be an expert on. We are looked to understand all of these modalities like that and have an opinion on those. And I don't know how you regulate that. You know what I mean? I don't know how we include experts in those fields under the umbrella of veterinary medicine. I think that it's very hard. I was taught. It is hard. Like as a young vet, again, like I was trying to work with the farriers. Okay, you do a bar shoe with navicular. Okay, I got it. It's way more complicated than that. So, okay, MagnaWave's great for what? Okay, I got, unless a veterinarian has the experience of that you do in MagnaWave. Like, think about all the horses you've worked on in your career. Not everybody having a MagnaWave. Somebody who's done it for a few years consistently should be a great reference for equine veterinarians. Same with, farriers. So a farrier that's been working for, 5 to 10 years should be a great reference. Let's work together on that. And I think that our veterinary training sometimes doesn't include that in the perspective that it should. I feel as though veterinarians don't need to be walking out there and going, this is what you need to do, without a lot of experience. And that's impossible. It's impossible as a human to really know all of the options in equine care, in my humble opinion.
Veterinarians have the whole horse. And if you look at humans, there's hand doctors, there's feet doctors, there's teeth doctors, there's everybody's all different. But when we look at a horse, we're like, okay, no, but you doctors, you do all of it for this animal, and we're not. So I know that there are specialties, but to me, I feel like that's a lot. And then you have 4 years, you're told this is it. And I've also noticed there's not a lot of business education in a lot of veterinarian schools. I wish that I could go speak at these colleges, because I have so many veterinarians that have not been successful dealing with depression, dealing with these things. Right. They end up finding me through the grapevine, and they're like, man, I wish I would have just had this little bit of business school, like this little bit of understanding about marketing, this little bit of understanding about liability, this little bit of billing. And because they just know what they know, and there isn't that onus on most veterinarians, especially like you, the large animal veterinarians. They're one-man bands. They're running their own business. Sometimes they're in a conglomerate, but it's very difficult to give you everything in just 4 years, right? And
which takes us back to the beginning of our talk, right? Like, running a business, being a parent, there's only so much time. I have to give a shout out to the AEP, because they're continuing education every year. We have a great annual conference. I'm sure you've been. I probably saw you last December in, where were we? In Denver. Is that where we were? Denver. But they always have business education there. So I think the opportunities post-graduation for veterinarians to really understand business have come leaps and bounds from where they were 30 years ago. I think the opportunities to learn, the opportunities to hire a consultant, they have groups, and I can't remember what they're called, because again, I fly below the radar of all these or above them or whatever, but they have a group of all single practitioners to come together twice a year. Maybe it's a Zoom, 7 practitioners, like bigger corporate veterinary clinics, and talk about, it's called the VMG group, veterinary management groups, and they match you with people. So, but you're right. It's just, there's only so much the time in the day. There's only so much time to be good at whatever. I have a pile of books on my coffee table behind me that I bought to get better at my acupuncture. I bought some human manuals so that I can understand the channels and the internal stuff. And there's so much to learn just in the acupuncture field. They've been sitting there for 3 years, and I might be being conservative because I've had kids to raise, and I just got my own advanced chiropractic class going, and I'm waiting for the website guy to finish that off. It's just been drinking from a fire hose. And so there's only so much time in a day to get better at what we do, especially. And I think that's one of the reasons I didn't choose to do a residency, because I didn't want to specialize. I think it's really a great thing to have experience at a lot of different things as a veterinarian, doing some internal medicine, that's common, not necessarily needing a referral. I think there's pros and cons to having a referral-based medical society in humans. My first husband had some chest pains and was having those intermittently, and we went to the cardiologist. They did a cardiac cath, and the cardiologist was like, well, it's not your heart. And so with all the specialties, where does a human go? Where do they start when they're having issues?
Concierge medicine.
Different heads are not talking to each other. It's probably a lot like what you and I are talking about. So it's a lot.
It is. And, I've learned, I think having an open mind is step one. If you have the will and you can get the skill. And I think a lot of times people think, I already know enough. Or I know if you have to, just having the books is half the battle, or having the open mind to want to learn from somebody else. Because what I have learned over the last 15 years, I'm constant. I learned so much today. This morning I met with these researchers down at Norton Hospital here in Louisville. And I'm constantly amazed at people who just don't have the mind to learn anymore. They've decided, a lot of times people think that the brain is a camera observing, but it's not. The brain is projecting. So like you project what you want to see. Your brain and your eyes and your ears only see and hear what you tell them to, and it's what you're focusing on. And I think focusing on, I don't know it all, and I want to learn more from everyone around me is a beautiful space to be in. And that's what I look for when I'm in any type of healthcare situation with my animals or with myself and my family, is like, what doctor is open to learning more and open to trying new things and has that ability to learn and want to learn from other people. That's the blessing that you really want everyone to have.
Yeah, I think some of that is a result of our culture. Like people are like, okay, I got the knowledge. Now I'm going to go off and do my thing. And I think, we were all raised that, okay, you get to be a vet and then you'll have your career, or, I'm going to be, a plumber, and then I'm going to have my career. And it's all practice, it's every bit of life is practice. And so I think maybe we are failing to teach that at a greater level now than we did back then. I think maybe we are failing to teach the journey in the world rather than, you've purchased this degree and now you're qualified. Yeah, we've all had that, right? And we've definitely been exposed to people who have the ability to learn more and those who have hit their ceiling. And And so I love the Chinese saying that 2/3 of what we see is behind our eyes. And so you're exactly right. Like it's along the same lines of like a manifestation thing, right? Like we hear what we want to hear. We see what we want to see. We can see, you and I could both see the same event and come away with different interpretations. And so, I'm going to get, like, we never talk politics and religion, right? But I'm going to go there. So one of the problems with our society right now is that two people with differing perspectives can't stand in the same room together and be respective. We feel, as our culture has raised us in the last 20 years, probably, we just feel like, well, if they don't believe like me, then they're not my people. And, my philosophy major again was something like, anytime you can have a debate with someone who thinks opposite of you, you get to actually check yourself and say, do I still really feel that way? Or is that person's perspective maybe one that I'd like to consider? And I think that our culture has set that up to be failure now. And I think that's probably the crux of the problem, is that learning means that you're not good enough yet. And you're right. It's a huge failing to veterinary medicine, to human medicine, to humanity, America.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is this.
Careful who you interview, right?
Right. Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, when I think about politics, and I'm going to go there too, when I think about politics, I think you run on a platform so people know what you care about. But when you become a leader in any political realm, you lose that box and become a representative of all the people. You should. And I think that we've lost that.
That would be the idea. Yeah,
that's it. I mean, whenever I ran for student government, or when I lead my business and my people, I'm not just representing my own needs. I'm representing all the people that work here. And I think that I speak for all of them. And sometimes my decisions are going to help some of them, and sometimes they're not going to be great for others, and vice versa, right? But you have to make those decisions and find somebody, especially when you're leading an entire country or an entire large group of people. I'm going to make these decisions based on the best of humanity and not what I believe is correct. A business and politics are not the same thing, and they're not. And I think that we have to keep that in mind as we move forward as a society, right? Just like medical care and business is not the same thing, but they do intertwine. And you've got to keep what's best for the animal and what's best for what you do for your practice in line with sometimes you're going to make decisions that are best for your business, and sometimes you're going to make decisions that are best for the animal. And that means you might have to donate time or provide care because you care about that animal, but you can't do it all the time. You can't do all your services for free because you still have a business and you got to eat, right? So there's a little bit of that I think we're all balancing.
Absolutely. So balance is life, right? Like life, we're constantly searching for the balance. It's
constantly,
how do
and
we,
it's not
yeah,
there. It's not. I don't think it exists. I think you're just.
I agree.
It's not. It's more
Well,
like a pendulum. You're just doing this.
if you can get it in the moment, great. Tomorrow's going to be different, so the quest for learning how to balance is, and learning your, there's a really neat term in neurology called gamma gain. And if you picture yourself walking across a log or a tightrope or something like that, like your body's doing this to try and balance. And the more quick and minute, like the less you have to wave your arms around, the better your gamma gain, right? So we all want to have good gamma gain so that we can make nuanced changes on a small basis. As my farrier friend says, be conservative, treat often. And that's really like our approach. We need to have some philosophical perspective on life on a daily basis. And go,
I
okay,
agree.
how did today go?
Yeah. I completely agree. I think it's very interesting. One of the things that I'm really obsessed with right now is, like, I feel like people who can be happy even when nothing is going good traditionally for them is a superpower. Like, I am,
100%.
I feel like powerful people control their mind, their mood, and their mouth. And
Yep.
like, I'm still working on the mouth part. Okay. But I feel like
You're a great conversationalist. There's a gift in that.
yeah, but I think that there's that mind and that mood. When I realize, like, my mood, all that I have is this moment with you, right? Like, that's what the energy exchange is about. Technically, nothing else exists except the moment in front of us. Like, everything was either before or in the future. There isn't anything but this reality. And I think that when I'm with people, my goal as I'm growing and learning as a person, just as a human being, is how can I control my mind, my mood, and my mouth and bring good energy to every person that I interact with, whether it's the lady that I'm picking up my dry cleaning from, or whether it's you, and learning from every single perspective of them, because you never know. The next minute could everything's going to be different no matter what. We don't know, we worry about this future that might not ever exist. And it's just a beautiful thing to be able to have this exchange of ideas and energy. And I actually like talking to people and learning from other people. My mind can get changed easier than I think in a lot. I've changed because I really like learning, and that's a gift.
Yeah.
You got to feel dumb to be smart.
Oh yeah. I say a number of things. I say all the time, I love it when I'm wrong, because that means I'm growing. Oh, didn't get that right. Okay, let me try that again. I have tried to teach my kids, you don't get happiness somewhere out there. You bring it to every situation.
Yep.
When I waited tables at Red Lobster, you bring your joy with you. You don't get given a personality or a personhood by anybody or anything or any career. You have to learn that stability on the inside and bring it with you. I don't know I'm on the energy exchange, so I'm going to go energetic on you here, but there's a great book called Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. And Joe Dispenza is a chiropractor. And one of the coolest things about that book is that he says that emotions are not feelings, they're actually vibrations. And so the low vibrations in the world, right, are hate and jealousy and loathing and depression and like those things. And so when we're vibrating in the low frequencies, that's what's going to vibrate with us. So that's the people that we're going to attract.
Yes.
So the higher we can get our vibration of contentment and joy, and he said love is the highest vibration. So if you're feeling love every day, and it starts with ourselves, right? That's been the hardest lesson for me as a parent and as a woman, to take care of myself and have self-love and go, you know what? You did a good job today. One way or the other, you did a good job today. Like, that's self-love. But once I'm vibrating along there, then number one, none of those negative energies can stick to me. And number two, I attract my own vibration. So the higher we vibrate together as a society, aren't I being altruistic?
It's
But,
true.
the more you attract your people, and it might be that I am not working for people in my area that are super high show people or whatever, and that's a choice. Like, I work for people who are really great human beings and are vibing with their horse. And in Richmond, Virginia, where I'm at, we've got a lot of really great 2-horse barn backyard competitors out there, and, smaller show barns and everything. Like, we've just got a lot of great horse people, and I love being in this area and vibing with my people. Like, the more that I kind of figure out my groove, the more I get brought clients that I would consider friends, so
I agree.
I think
I
that's
have
how
the
we change
same
the
thing.
world.
Well, I talk to people on sales calls and stuff, and I immediately, the way they're talking, the way they're I'm like, man, I don't want this person to buy a MagnaWave. Like, this person, what they're doing and saying and talking about other people, and the way they're bashing things, and the way, like, this person is not a client I want to have. And I literally decide, I have fired customers where it's just like, I'm done. I don't care if you're, they're the people that they're very negative, and they may go buy from our competition. I don't care. I don't want you in the practitioner team anyways, because the people that are here, that I'm attracting those type of people who are learning and growing and doing these things. And if you're negativity, I don't want you part of the team. And that's hard for a lot of small businesses to take on when they're like, no, this woman, I'm like, that woman is toxic. She is doing everything to make your life horrible and harder. And you are so worried about losing the client. It's destroying you. Yeah. And that happens a lot. And you have to learn that your time is valuable. Your energy is valuable. And just because they're willing to pay you doesn't mean that they deserve it. Mm-hmm. And
that's right.
That's a hard thing to grow into, because everybody's like, well, I have to service. The customer is always right is not the saying. The customer is always right in the matter of taste. Meaning, if you like that couch and you're selling couches and you think that couch is ugly, but the customer likes it, that's their taste.
Absolutely.
The customer is not always right about the expert. Like, they could say, I want this big giant MagnaWave, but that's not what you need. I'm telling you that you might like that way that one looks, but this is the one for the needs and the problems that you have. And that's a real, you can't just do everything for everyone. You've got to do what you believe is right for them, and they need to learn. And I think that that's a hard, people are like, the customer is always right. No, not when it comes to what you're an expert at. They're not always right, and you wouldn't just deliver a medicine or do some sort of acupuncture on an animal just because I want you to do it here, here, and here. That's not, I'm not, I don't do it that way.
That's right. And thank goodness the laws of veterinary medicine protect me on that, right? Like, I can't prescribe herbs without seeing an animal. Like, we get protected by that as vets for sure. But you're right.
I love that. Okay. I have one more question that I really want to ask you. And I want to know, what's one thing that horse owners misunderstand about animal health, like about horse health? What is it that you see that the one thing that you think horse owners should know or should be doing that they're not doing that you see a lot?
I feel as though that's twofold. I've got two things that came to mind. First thing that came to mind was that I think more horses are uncomfortable and reveal discomfort before we have lameness issues. And I think that if we learned to pay better attention to their messages and what they're trying to tell us, i.e. the Sue Dyson ridden horse pain ethogram. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but Dr. Sue Dyson is a veterinarian in England, and she did an entire study on horses that were uncomfortable. And she has 24 things that you can check that might indicate that your horse is uncomfortable and not necessarily lame. And the other thing that I think of is that I think that horses' diets and human diets I think our microbiome and the horse microbiome is being grossly ignored. And I feel as though whole foods, like horse feeds, have gotten so processed that I think, and I think there's pesticides in the environment now that may be causing the epidemic in stomach ulcers. And so I think attention to what we're putting in our horses' bodies would be very helpful to their health. And I wish that more people paid attention or had some knowledge on that, right? Like, it kind of goes back to our society being very quick fix, very industrialized. And I think there are there's some fallout from that is actually hurting our horses. So
I 100% agree. It's so funny you brought that up. And I know that we're going a little over time here, but I want to tell you, I was just down here I was just at the university or Norton Hospital, right by U of L downtown. They are doing groundbreaking research on microbiomes and
Sweet.
the relationship, the correlation between Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and what they've discovered
Oh,
down there.
cool.
I was in a presentation today. It was a very small group of people, and this study, the result, I mean, it is mind blowing. I'm not allowed to talk anymore about it because it
I
has to
love
be
it.
published first, but it's so cool. And I agree with you 100%. Now, what are 3 things every horse owner should start doing tomorrow?
So I love the Chinese medicine approach to things because it's very specific to the animal. So if I said this food is good for everyone, most of them would be good for some and not for others. So every horse owner should do tomorrow. I think that probiotics are super helpful for horses, and those are different than stomach ulcer prevention, but should do tomorrow. I like a good probiotic. There's lots of them out there, and I would rotate them once or twice a year. I think that whole flax is a game changer for a lot of horses in their joints and in their coat quality. It's the best omega-3 out there. So I would say those 2 things for sure. And I think grooming your horse every day, like having some quiet time with your animal, picking their feet up, moving their legs around gently, grooming them is going to give you so much information.
Just like a
Moving your
baby.
hands, just like a baby. Yes.
Just
So
like
those would be 3 things that I would say. And I'm sure horse owners are like, check, 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 doing all those, so good if you're doing all those. But yeah, I can't, I'm sure there are other things, but I can't, I'm not a all or never, all or, I'm not that kind of person.
But
So
those
it's
are
hard
3
to say
things that you
globally,
should be
but-
doing. Everybody should be looking into the microbiomes. They should be looking into the whole flax. Is that what you said?
Whole flax.
Whole
Half a
flax,
cup,
and
once or
then
twice a day.
yeah, and then grooming your animal. I could not agree more. I could literally not agree more. All right, this is the last question I'm going to ask you. What's
Okay,
something you
I'm ready.
believe today that you probably would have laughed at 10 years ago?
I think that 10 years ago, I was just starting in the field of fascia and fascial release. I took a non-veterinary fascial release class, and about 15 years ago, I started going to a guy in my area who's a PT, and he does a fascial release called counter strain. And it is not strain counter strain, but it has grown from that for anybody who knows what that term is. And the associations that the developer of counter strain has made, like, I am mind boggled at how my body is fitting together. So I was on his table 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, you know what I've discovered? I think that all of the fascia around the horse's tail and the base of their sacrum is related to the TMJ. And he goes, well, totally it is. Like, he can validate all of these interconnections from the human perspective, that I think that horses' bodies and the restrictions are way more complicated and real than we give them credit for. And I also think that horses understand us. I'm not going to say understand our language, but 10 years ago, I probably didn't acknowledge the degree to which an animal knows they're human and therefore tries to communicate with their human more. Like, I have, out of sport, given credence to that more and more over the last 10 years. And I'm amazed at how often it's actually true. Like, yeah, I'm just amazed at how much there's a nonverbal communication between animals and their humans, this energy thing, right?
They understand the electromagnetic field of the human. Like, they can tell your energy right away, and it's mind blowing. And I think you're absolutely right. And right now we're doing some clinical research, and we are talking about the tails and the fascia that you just said. We're doing it with horses, pigs, and dogs, and the amount of electromagnetic field to stimulate the fascia and the results of where the connection is. And it's incredible. First of all, horses take less electromagnetic field than humans do. So a lot of people are like, I need a giant machine for my horse. I'm like, well, you might need that for you, but you don't need that for the horse. Right. But it's amazing to me how pigs take a large amount of electromagnetic field, so much more than horses do. And dogs also take, in between pigs, humans, and horses is the dog.
Isn't that
and
interesting?
It's so cool. Fascia is something that I have recently been learning about in myself in autoimmune diseases, and I've been involved in some research. But the way that animal bodies, the fascia interacts, and the way that PMF interacts with them, I will send you information if you ever want to talk about it. You would probably love it, especially when you're talking about acupuncture points and the way that it works, and the electro acupuncture. So cool. We still have a lot to learn, Dr. Marshall. We still have a lot
We're just scratching the surface. Like the fascia is such a huge, so I learned I had to start studying fascia. I took the weekend fascial course that was non-veterinary, and then I started getting human books. Nerves travel at 50 meters per second. It's pretty fast. Our fascia sends information at 1,500 meters per second. Like it's probably the communication organ in our body, and it's in every muscle fascicle, and it's behind your eyeballs, and it's under your fingernails, and holy cow. Like what we don't know, like 30 years ago in anatomy, we trim all that away because we wanted to look at the good stuff. Well, it is the good stuff. And
it is.
Your modality deals with it. My modalities deal with it. Like it's all energy, but there's just, it's called a lot of different things as far as moving it. But and then I go back to, well, you got to figure out which one works for your animal, you know?
Yeah.
What works
well,
better,
and you got to have a
all
practitioner
energy.
that takes into consideration all the different ones, because there's a time for acupuncture, there's a time for MagnaWave, there's a time for all of these things, but you have to know, and you have to be willing to learn. And you can't if you are ever talking to somebody and they say, this is it, it does have, you only need this modality, you only need this is going to do everything, run.
Right.
Run.
Just run away. Closed door, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I'm done. No, it doesn't. You know, people say they're like, cryotherapy for the horses, it's everything. It's all we need. And I'm like, man, no, it's not. Like, there's so many other things. And I, as the person who literally is championing MagnaWave all over the world, also don't believe it does everything and is everything. I believe it's a piece of the toolbox. And I think that we all need to look at how they interact together. And I am so thankful that you came today and joined me on the energy exchange. And we need to get together sometime, because I have so much more I want to share with you and to talk. We could have a lot of fun and do a lot of learning. And also, do you have an Audible? You need Audible. We need to get those books on tape for you, or on set, so you can listen to them. You don't have to read them. You can just listen to them. I listen to all my books now. And the books that are on your table that you haven't read in 3 years.
Oh yeah. Well, they're super technical. So they're like one of those things that I've got to take like a page at a time and look at the pictures.
Oh,
and
you'd probably fall asleep if you were reading, if you were listening to it, because it's too much. You can't keep up with the plot.
Yep.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
no, they're all very technical books. Very technical books.
Yeah, that's not fun. That's
Thank you.
Well, you should
for
read
the encouragement.
those when you have time. One day.
Absolutely.
One day.
I've got time. Like this weekend, I'm getting caught up on a whole bunch of stuff, and my personal advanced chiropractic class is about ready to be launched. I'm just waiting on the website.
Tell me about that. Where is that? Where do people get that? If they want to do that, tell me where they can find more information.
So it's going to be very shortly equinewellnessnetwork.com. And that is going to have kind of two branches. One of them is going to be these really neat farrier podiatry clinics that are open to veterinarians and farriers. And we've got gait analysis and really some very ancient shoeing and hoof balance techniques. The word hoof balance has come to mean radiology in veterinary medicine, and it's so much more than that. You know, it's not just an x-ray, it's not just looking at things, it's more dynamic than that. So half of that website is going to be for them, and I participate with that. But equine, it's going to be advanced equine veterinary manual therapy. So it's going to be under the Equine Wellness Network. And basically what that's going to look like is I have composed some lectures. So basic veterinary chiropractic, basic fascial release. I do a lot of chiropractic, what I call chiropractic patterning. Like I find the chiropractic in these areas in this horse. What does that tell me? Comparing it with how the rider says they're moving. What does that tell me about where the horse is avoiding, where the horse is using itself more, and what might be some underlying situations? So I got a lecture on that. I do include our farrier knowledge for a lot of the vets who haven't been exposed to all of that, because I've learned that, man, when horses' feet are comfortable, guess what? They hold their chiropractic a whole lot better. And I have seen that in action. So that's an 8-hour online course. And then my on-site courses will be here in Richmond. And I'm going to take 4 veterinarians required to already have basic chiropractic. I would prefer that they've been working for at least 3 years. And I'm going to take only 4 at a time. And we're going to go to barns that I already have lined up. And we're going to stand a horse in front of each of them. And I'm going to say, adjust. I'm going to come behind you. I'm going to see what more I can feel. I'm going to teach you how to feel that and teach you myofascial release and how to fix that on a deeper level. So
that's amazing. So is this Equine Wellness Network yours?
It is.
That is so cool.
I'm so excited.
That is so awesome. I love that.
Yes.
I'll put the link and everything on when you're ready. You tell me, we'll put it in the description so everybody can find it. And then I'd love to connect again. And I got you a virtual ticket to MagnaCon. It's online, but I'd love for you to check it out and watch some of the videos. There's some really cool research and education, a lot of cool stuff. And maybe next MagnaCon, you can come and talk about the Equine Wellness Network, because I think that would be great for people to be aware of.
I would be happy to support that in any way.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Marshall. And thank you, everyone, for enjoying the Energy Exchange.